and the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and it is Saturday, and you know what that means. It's time for all the toy news, action figure news of the week that interested me, that hopefully interests you on this Memorial Day weekend, for those that celebrate Memorial Day. A lot of people getting an extra day off, a 3-day weekend, never a bad thing if you can get it, of course. And of course, we got to thank the sponsor of this very video. It is jaystoysandgames.com. Use discount code Kyle, save yourself 15% over there on all in-stock items. However, if you are local in the Des Moines, Iowa area, they do have 10% off everything in store this weekend. So you know I'm going to be checking that out. Got to get a deal at the end of the day. Not just a motto, it's a thing I live by, as you guys know by now. And we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about in this very episode of the Toy News, including my run-in this week with a family member of one Greg Gagne. You got to stay tuned to that in the Power Town update for sure. But we got a little bit more housekeeping to do. Patreon, we're almost done with the month of August. I did put up a Patreon exclusive behind the scenes, how the sausage is made video on how I do these reviews. So check that out, Patreon members. Plenty of stuff going up there every single day. New content, you name it. Latest episode of the podcast as well, the old Kyle Peterson Show, up already on Patreon and YouTube channel memberships as well. But now we got to dive into the giveaway. The month of August, it's a heavy duty giveaway with heavy duty. So you got a couple of days to get in. Tomorrow, weekly purchases will announce next month's giveaway as well. But heavy duty, last chance to get in on that as the Patreon giveaway for the month of August. But let's start it off. Let's start with some WWE Mattel news this week. Not a lot going on from Mattel. There's some rumored lineups coming out there. We're not going to dive into all that, but there is some rumors of some figures coming. We'll let the dust settle. We'll see what happens there. But we do know for sure Mattel Creations, and unfortunately for me, I messed up on my order. More on that in a second here. The latest, greatest retro 4-pack is up. Bobby Heenan, Virgil, Harley Race, and the Ultimate Warrior. You know I'm here for that one there. That is available on Mattel Creations right now. So go over there if you're after that 4-pack. The first one, when you searched it, it popped up with that 4-pack with the Royal Rumble ring. I wasn't paying attention. I was multitasking. Ordered it all. Now I got another Brother Love Royal Rumble ring coming my way. That's the way it goes, I guess, from time to time. So we'll see. We'll figure out something to do with that extra ring and set. Maybe it'll be another giveaway here on the channel. We'll see what happens there. But if you need your retro 4-pack, you know where to go, MattelCreations.com. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Stop the clock and stop it early here in the toy news. So much stuff to get to, but future Kyle breaking in. And we got some late-breaking Mattel news Friday afternoon after I filmed my video, of course. But our friends over there at Ringside, use discount code Kyle, save yourself 10%. Put up some new pre-orders, so I wanted to cover that going on. We do got the clear Invisible Cena and Gangster Cena going to Ringside. I talked about this in the toy news about a month ago. I have seen all these exclusive Walmart Cenas have been solicited to other retailers. So other retailers will have these. That's why we don't want to get too concerned about finding these at Walmart, as places like Ringside will have our back on these. Gangster Cena and John Cena Invisible Edition up for pre-order right now. Defining Moment exclusives, Penta, Cody Rhodes. We saw those at San Diego Comic-Con. Pre-order available right now. That Penta is probably going to be one of the jewels, of course, of the Defining Moments line. A lot of people excited for that Penta figure. And last but not least, a bit of a surprise right here from the Vault Series 7. Of course, Ringside exclusive line. An interesting set. Is it an all-NWO set? We're not totally sure quite yet. But it looks like we have the Disciple. So we've talked about this before. Do we enjoy getting a Build-A-Figure from the Vault line? It's kind of nice because let's say you're a huge Disciple fan. Maybe you love it. You're a part of the One Warrior Nation, maybe. And I would love to see a plot twist, a repaint One Warrior Nation version of him here would be a nice touch. But it is the Disciple, so now you can get him in his own package instead of Build-A-Figure parts. So great for mint on card collectors, of course. We also have the Great Muta involved in this. Now, these are just here off the Monday Night Wars set, the latest one we've reviewed on the channel. I'm hoping it's something different than that one. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. And then, of course, we do have 6, X-Pac, I believe 6 is what this one's going to be. It'd be interesting to see what look he's in. And then the Hulkster back brother, what you going to do? But it looks like it's going to be that Wolfpack Hulk Hogan. Probably the ringside exclusive from a couple of years ago. A fabulous figure that could use a few tweaks or two, but it looks like that one is coming. So all these available right now at Ringside Collectibles using code Kyle. Save 10%. More miscellaneous wrestling news this week before we get into some other stuff. Latuni this week, 9/19, that'd be September 19th, will be the order. Brand new Andre the Giant in suit. Now, we'll see how that one goes. Going to be interesting to see how that one resonates with people. But if you're after that, you can check it out at Latuni. 9/19 is the pre-order date. And of course, speaking of LJN style figures or maybe big rubber guys in this example, they also have a little Andre as they put up for vote. What Andre do you want to see? You want to see Afro Andre like the first LJN Once Upon a Time? Or do you want a suited Andre from the big rubber guys line? Make your voice heard. You can get your voice heard over there at Collect Major. Head over there and check that one out. But we also heard coming off their live show, and they being the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, the ECW Big Rubber Guys line, the Extreme Big Rubber Guys. Apparently, it is going to be an open stock order in the future. Probably not this year, maybe early next year. We'll see what happens there. But we do got Raven and Tommy Dreamer heading into that lineup with, of course, Sabu that was shown before. So pretty heavy hitter threesome right there. Really like the idea for this line. There's a lot of cool talent that they can get to be a part of this. Can't wait to see where this one goes. Can we get an Eliminators? Can we get a Pitbulls? We probably can't get the Dudleys. Probably can't get the Sandman right now. Can't get RVD, but maybe Balls Mahoney, Axel Rotten. There's a lot of meat on the bone in ECW, and those guys being big ECW guys, gotta imagine we'll get more of these figures in the future, but this is a pretty nice start with those three, if you ask me. FTC this week, they've had a lot of news after being dormant for a long time. They are re-releasing, I guess, basically their ring to go along with the blue cage we talked about last week. So if you're after the classic blue cage, and I'll never forget being a little boy in the audience for Big Boss Man versus Hulk Hogan Saturday night's main event once upon a time, beware of Zeus. That's all I'll say about that. But you do have that opportunity to order that if you want to via FTC, so check them out, of course. Title Run Toys, they're having announcements every single week, and that's what you got to do, especially if you're a smaller third-party company. You got to keep working on those flames, keep those flames going. Got to get your stuff out there. And this week we saw prototype images, I guess what we'll call, prototype figures of Mike McGurk, of course, former ring announcer back in the WWF days, of course. Daughter of one Leroy McGurk, as we know as well. 2 different versions there, of course, pre-orders, all that kind of fun stuff. We did unbox TRT Series 1 on the channel. Check out those reviews if you missed it. It's so many reviews up on Patreon, it's hard to keep track. We've had a ton of retro-style wrestling figures lately between Grapplers and Gimmicks, KWK, Mattel very soon here shortly, the Title Run Toys, as we do know, and even the Zombie Sailors. There's a lot of stuff coming at us at all times. But that's 2 more from Title Run Toys. But speaking of Zombie Sailor toys, where are those Pinnacle figures, Todd? You heard anything more on that? I haven't heard anything either. I'm hoping those are still coming this the end of this year. It has been total quiet on those Pinnacle figures. Would like to hear an update of some kind on those. I mean, they were supposed to come around, I think, late fall, early winter, so they haven't passed the expiration date like some of these companies that we know, Todd. But I'm hoping those do still come because we put our hard-earned money down. You know how it goes. But we did see from Zombie Sailor Toys, they do have a Memorial Day sale. So if you're an in-stock variety fan, you can do a little savings over there. Check that out. And then this week, we did see Mr. Hughes on-card sample shown off. So that's an interesting development. Going to be cool to see how that one looks in hand. Mr. Hughes, a deep cut, the big cat in a lot of ways. Can go on your WCW shelf, can go on your WWE shelf. Choose your own adventure there. But we've been talking about this one for a couple of years, it seems like. But it looks like the order is coming very soon. So stay tuned for you Mr. Hughes fans, of course. Now we turn our attention to the Nerd Closet. Road Warriors, black, classic, old school NWA, even AWA style, you could say. Over there at the Nerd Closet, Matt Maniacs, they did announce this week the first, I think it was 500 orders, get the wrist gauntlets for them. So if you want to get those wrist gauntlets, you better get your order in there. Very excited about this being a Road Warriors guy and a guy that loves face paint on wrestlers. You know how I go over here. But speaking of face-painted wrestlers from the Nerd Closet, they did announce Danhausen this week, and I gotta say, this is probably the first one I've seen from the company where people are like, I don't know if I like this one. And I understand what they're saying there because everybody they've released so far has been Road Warriors, LOD, the Steiners. You got Demolition, the Powers of Pain coming, Matt and Brian. But we got big, beefy, meaty guys from back in yesteryear. Danhausen, not quite a Powers of Pain guy. So you basically have that same body style, but with Danhausen, it just makes Danhausen look way farther away from an actual wrestler than he actually is. Soft goods cape, nice touch. I love face paint, but it looks off just because Danhausen is smaller, and that's where they need to use a different mold for a guy like that. I mean, it works for a Hacksaw Jim Duggan that they're going to do. Not sure it works for Danhausen. So this one a little controversial as far as Danhausen figures go, I do believe. But that one will be coming to pre-order sooner rather than later. But now Todd from the couch, of course, Todd McFarlane, good friend of the channel. Of course, we did our video last week, Todd. A lot of people enjoyed our time shooting that commercial in that Walmart in beautiful Ottawa, Illinois. But Todd, it is time for the Power Town update.
Are you ready for pain? Are you ready for suffering?
All right, it's time for the Power Town update, or should we call it the lack of Power Town updates? And before I get to the Greg Gagne story, we're going to dive into a little Morton family business. And we're not talking about Morton Steakhouse. I don't think they're related. Are they Mortons? I don't know. We'll have to double check that one there. Get a little fact checked action. But of course, one Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express. Check out Patreon for the Rock and Roll Express unboxing of their latest Big Rubber guys. But Ricky Morton did post on Twitter how disappointed he is in the whole Power Town situation. And he did say, hey, I haven't been paid for any of these figures either, because obviously the fan base is starting to complain to some of the wrestlers. And I feel bad for a guy like Ricky Morton because Power Town, he's not making the Power Town figures. He's not Magnum. He's not Greg Gagne. So him getting some blowback is tough, but I understand how the average Joe or the average Jill out there says, well, it's a Ricky Morton figure. I'm just going to complain to Ricky Morton. So I understand how they can make that connection, but it's not a true connection. But Ricky Morton did put a post out there how disappointed he was and everything else. Now, Kerry Morton just a couple of weeks ago was with Magnum PI. He was with Magnum PI, Tom Selleck. No, he was with Magnum TA at the Gathering, of course, as we do know. And they were sitting there for that picture that kind of went viral that a lot of people were worked up about. But Kerry Morton did post in one of the wrestling figure groups how he's disgusted about this situation, hoping everybody gets their money back and stuff. And I have to believe Ricky Morton, he's on so many indie shows, especially down in the Southeast there where Magnum is based at. You would have to think him and Magnum would have a little bit more conversation, but maybe Magnum and him aren't talking. Who knows what's going on? Money coming in between friends is never a good thing. It's like when you wouldn't pay those tolls out there on the toll roads there, Todd. I know you can afford those tolls. You could at least went halvesies with me. And we had a little disagreement about that. I guess very similar to Magnum and the Morton family, apparently. But I don't know what's going to happen with that one there. I do know Matt Cardona stepped in either there or maybe in his Facebook group or something. And he said, hey, a lot of talent doesn't get paid until the figures ship and stuff. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the individual contracts. Do you get an upfront signing bonus? Do you get something? Every company's different. So I wouldn't go too crazy about this with the Power Town thing because this is the way a lot of people do it. They pay them after the stuff gets there. However, I think frustrations are everywhere. I know because I'm part of it. Frustrations everywhere around the Power Town situation and lack of situation. And we hear about these tariffs and we hear about this week with like some of the Temu type stuff, the cheaper stuff not shipping, people not shipping to the US anymore. You just got to think this whole Power Town thing is just an absolute disaster. And once again, I don't think it is an absolute disaster. And you go back, the pre-orders were so long ago, it was multiple price increases ago. So I think the Remco figures were like $22, $24.99. What is time? What is money? Nowadays, they'd probably be charging like $35 for these. So it just compounds the issues for Power Town where they took a price based on one thing. They took so long to get everything going. Now the factories are probably saying, hey, this is the price now. It just makes the problems bigger and bigger. And then you throw the tariffs on there. You throw everything from that crazy Greg Gagne interview a couple of weeks ago. Things are just falling apart at the seams. I don't know. We'll see. Magnum did send notes or emails out to some people saying everything will be delivered by Thanksgiving and the Remco's in September. Fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. I don't know what to believe at this point here. But one thing I could not believe is a day job, Kyle. Kyle, working the streets, working a man about town, kissing babies, high-fiving people, working the day job out there. I came across the store. I was in a grocery store this week, of all things. And, of course, I'm a local celebrity. Something like that, but not the way you'd think I would be. But I was speaking to an old cohort once upon a time that I used to work with. And he says, hey, you know something about Gagnes and all this, and I've never talked wrestling with this individual ever before, and I've known this guy for a couple of decades now, I think at this point, and he's like, hey, I got this guy that's working with me today, and let's see, it was his great uncle, so somebody's gonna have to do this family tree math in the comments below, but his great uncle, anyways, was a big time wrestler, and Kyle, we know you know about wrestling and stuff, maybe you would know who this guy is. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, here it comes. It's everybody in the Midwest seems to be related to Bulldog Bob Brown. Oh, everybody's related to Bulldog Bob Brown. And a little bit before my time, but I hear it all the time. And I think people just like to use that. I don't know. But anyways, that's what I'm fully expecting. So I get to the aisle. I see this guy. I said, so I understand you're related to a wrestler and you wanted to tell me about it? And he's like, yeah. He goes, my great uncle is Vern Gagne. And oh, my ears perked up. I hear Gagne and those ears perked up. What? Yeah, that didn't perk up. Maybe it perks up for you. That doesn't perk up for me when I hear Gagne, but maybe Todd over there from the couch. He's a wild man, as we do know. But I said, okay, so you're related to Vern. That means you're related to my good friend, personal friend, Greg Gagne. And he said, yeah. And he didn't say. I said, so what are you to Greg? And I couldn't figure that out. So if Vern Gagne is your great uncle, is Greg your great great uncle? How does that work? No, it'd be the other way, wouldn't it? I don't know. I don't know these family trees. I don't know these family traditions either, like a young Hank Jr., but long story short, his brother or his dad is somewhat close to Greg Gagne. And I said, can you send him a message from your good friend, good buddy, Kyle? Tell him Kyle Peterson's looking for him. Tell him Kyle Peterson's willing to come up to Minnesota and talk to him about this Power Town situation. Be a 4-hour drive for me, but I got no problems going up there. I got business to take care of up in Minnesota. Maybe I'll stop by Dave Wheeler's house, say hi to him while I'm up there as well. You never know. I always got things to do in Minnesota. But he said, yeah, I'll tell my dad and stuff. And I filled him in and I said, yeah, Greg's a pretty controversial. And he's like, Greg better not be ruining that Gagne name. And I said, that name might have been ruined a little bit back. But I said, and he's like, you know, Greg Gagne and the Gagne name goes a long way in Minneapolis area. And I said, I know, you don't got to tell me. I go up there for work. I know the Gagnes. I know the whole story. I know the whole rigmarole. But he's like, I just don't like Greg. If he's doing all this stuff and he's part of this, it's going to bring a lot of bad publicity to the Gagne name. And I said, I think the cows are out of the barn. I don't think there's any putting back in at this point here. But it was very interesting, and he said he was going to talk to his dad, and he said he was going to reach back out to me once they got word to Greg Gagne. And so I'm not going to hold my breath on that, but we'll see. But it was very interesting. What are the coincidences? What are the odds of that walking into a store, and all of a sudden I find one of the Gagne family members, however distant that may be, but no updates really there. But I thought that was a funny story and a very ironic story this week. As our lack of Power Town updates continue here as we dial into September. And once again, I should remind everybody the website is not updated for Power Town, so don't bother checking. Nothing yet, but September next week, I'm sure we'll have our Remcos next week for weekly purchases. Stay tuned for that. But now moving on to some other news outside of the wrestling world, it's time for the Fall Geek Out event at Target. First one went up on Friday this week. Very Mogwai-centric, and I love a good Mogwai. Todd, you're not allowed to have Mogwais anymore because you always feed them after midnight, and then it's just crazy town after that. So you're not allowed to own a Mogwai anymore. But I am got full carte blanche to own as many Mogwais as I want. I might pick them up on that one day. But nothing I saw that I needed for the Fall Geek Out. But you got to imagine the rest of the month, we're going to see some stuff, maybe some Halloween edition NECA stuff. Have to imagine a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff as well. So be on the lookout for that at your local Targets. Wouldn't be shocked to see that end cap that's full of wrestling and Star Wars and some McFarlane to transition to the Fall Geek Out stuff as well. So look forward to those little resets at your stores the next couple of weeks. And speaking of NECA, we did hear this week, officially, we saw them at San Diego Comic-Con up for pre-order right now. Those no good Ben Cooper kids, 'tis the season. We got them coming around Dungeons and Dragons style. So we got 3 Dungeons and Dragons Ben Cooper kids around the corner. So if you're after those. Also saw something I guess I'm going to have to pass on, but it's milking that Universal license. Of course, and Todd, you milk a few things a time or two. But we got a Bride of Frankenstein 2-pack. Makes a lot of sense. But basically, it's a re-release of 2 figures. Maybe some shading differences, but it is milking that license if there ever was one. But I could see some people saying, oh, I'll get the Bride and Frank. I'll get them all in one fell swoop. Makes sense. You got to put your business hat. It is a business after all, but we got those going up for pre-order. And then how about last week we talked a little figure obscura from the Mythic Legions, of course, the Horsemen. They did officially announce it. It was the Jersey Devil up for pre-order right now if you're after that one there. I love a good cryptid. Got to say the Jersey Devil, not my favorite, of course, but I'll take it. Wonder if the future holds like a Mothman or maybe the Van Meter monster or maybe some Bigfoot, skunk apes, things like that. I would be in for that for the Mythic Legions line. We'll see what ends up happening. The Jersey Devil should be coming in September. We will unbox that on the channel when the time comes. So stay tuned for that there. And then we got a ton of Marvel news this week. Marvel's been pretty quiet since San Diego Comic-Con. But last week, I just missed it in the news. We did see Maximum Deadpool. There was a lot of rumors that was on the way. We saw Dupe at San Diego Comic-Con. Well, they put those two together, a little extra pizzazz for the $50 price point, of course. And we know how people feel about the Maximum line. A lot of people not into that price point. I get it. Price sells cars. Not a lot of people like a high price point. You don't have to be a math genius to figure that one out. You just got to vote with your wallet at the end of the day. As we always say on the channel, you like what you like, you don't what you don't. Don't let somebody tell you either way. It's your choice, your money. You work hard for it. Make your choice there. But that one is up for pre-order right now. We also saw a new Mysterio. This one looks pretty cool. And at first I was like, oh, I don't need another Mysterio. And then I looked, all those extra heads there really makes a difference than some of the different ones we've had in the past that we've reviewed in the past on the channel. So I will pick up the Mysterio figure. We also saw Strong Guy. No, you're thinking of Smart Guy. That was a show, I think, once upon a time on like the WB or something like that. Smart Guy, great show. A great show, Smart Guy. But Strong Guy is who we're talking about. Of course, X Factor Zone. I think he died back in the day when I was reading comic books, if I'm not mistaken. We got to build a figure once upon a time. Now we're getting a single release for him. Not a bad piece of business there. An iconic character, maybe not a super popular character, but very iconic back in the 90s, especially that X Factor team. Get me Forge, get me Polaris, get me Havoc, get me all that crew there. I'm here for the Strong Guy. And then last week, we also saw a 2-pack, the Mandarin, also Mandalorian, but Mandarin and Iron Man 2-pack. Do we need another Iron Man? I guess. And then this Mandarin, this is not the Mandarin we want, of course. We want the one from the old Toy Biz stuff where he looks like, he's got all the rings. He's got the long black hair. He looks like a stereotypical Asian guy at a buffet. That's what he looks like. That's the one we're looking for there. And we say it all the time on the channel. The first release is always going to be close to what you want, but not there, so they can release the second one. It's a business after all. You got to put the business hat on. They're not going to give us the Primo Mandarin. Keep wanting to say Mandalorian. The Primo Mandarin. They're not going to give us that one first. They're going to do it down the road, so we'll fully expect that in the future there. And then we did see this week, next year's comic sign up, the digital Marvel subscription. Every year they have a special figure. I really should dive into this, but I've never have done it. I just don't got time. And what is time? I don't know. But we do see Spider-Woman Symbiote Edition as the comic figure this year. So people can get that one if you get your order in for the digital stuff. You want to read all the comics. You do get that free figure, so that is pretty tempting if you ask me. So that's it for the Marvel Legends news. A lot of stuff for them. Like I said, it's been pretty quiet lately. But speaking of quiet, all is quiet on the Western Front. Todd McFarlane. Todd, you were telling me you were on PTO this week. Very convenient after our trip to Ottawa filming that commercial. Once again, check that out if you missed it. I thought it was a good touch when I said, Todd, you got to make sure you point out the TVs. You know, not everybody at Walmart can read. We know that. We've been in these Walmarts. Not everybody can read there. We know how it goes. But everybody knows what a TV is. And you say, oh, you point to the TVs. And Todd, on cue, you were all over that. So I was pretty happy to see how you were doing that one there. But you were on vacation this week. You literally just got back earlier today for a long weekend on the couch, what you said. But you were in the Falkland Islands, I think is what you said you were in. But you mispronounced it, but we'll call it Falkland Islands. We'll try to keep it as PG as possible. We do the N17 versions over on the podcast with my wife, Angie. You never know what's coming out of her mouth or going into her mouth either, as we know, right, Todd? Corn dogs for everybody. That's what we say. But Todd on PTO this week, and Todd, no announcements. Nothing for the news. Unless you break something after we film, which you've done that. You always pull those tricks on me. And I said, the trick's on you. I'm trying to cover your stuff. And you just announce it right after I filmed the video. But that's on him and his toes for sure over there. So nothing with McFarlane. That's it. That's the Memorial Day weekend toy event news, whatever you want to call it. Be interested to hear what you thought was an exciting toy news this week. Anything you're extra excited for? Any Power Town updates from you? Any thoughts on anything? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, you made it this far. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and my other YouTube channel. Check out YouTube channel memberships and Patreon for even more content and the giveaways, of course. Sir Paul64 on the X, the _Kyle_Peterson on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and the Kyle Peterson Show at gmail.com, which is my podcast, The Kyle Peterson Show, each and every single Tuesday or earlier for members of the YouTube and Patreon. You can check out the next episode right now if you want to. It is The Kyle Peterson Show, wherever podcasts are found with videocast on YouTube. And while you're at it, check out my books, the Jakks Classic Superstars book and the ECW Original San Francisco Toy Makers book, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble right now. So for another week of toy news, you know what I'm doing? I'm rocking and rolling, strutting and strolling my way into a holiday weekend.
Well, are we gonna dance or are we gonna play?
If I feel the time shaking,
music for me.